a little herd of elephants, and this is a young bull. He's a little bit irritated by life, and there's a little one coming from behind us at great speed, full charge. I would be absolutely terrified were he sort of 15 years older. But a youngster like that is just amusing. When they get cross, they get playful. He's been shouting the odds, throwing his insubstantial weight around. This one is also young. And as I was saying to him just before you came live, he's going to have to get a lot bigger. Might be a she, actually. Might be a young cow. She's also going to have to get a lot bigger before I will depart in terror. There are some others. This is not the only representatives of the herd. There's some others to the front or to the left of your screen. So we'll watch them quite carefully, because if there are some in the herd that are a little bit upset, often there are a few in the herd that are a little upset. Yes, hello. She's about 10 meters from us, 30 feet. I think a young bull. It is a little difficult to tell. He has got quite a square forehead, but no swelling between the front legs, which I think she would have. And normally the young cows are not playful like the young bulls like this. They don't kind of come and investigate the vehicles. They just get on with their lives within the herd. Just try and sneak forward a little bit. Just know that if I start the engine, he's going to run away. Let me just wait here. Beautiful light on them. I'm picking very selectively the little bits of green that there are in the bush. For a long time, people thought elephants were fairly indiscriminate feeders, that they just walked about the place eating everything they could, but they're actually highly selective. And we had a question yesterday about how they know where water is. And do they smell it, or do they feel it, or how do they know what's going on? And I think a lot of the time they're taught where water is, and likewise, I think the older females in the herd will teach them what to eat, when to eat it, where the best spots for certain plants are. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if one day someone were to make a discovery that elephants self-medicated, and perhaps other animals, but elephants self-medicated themselves with different plants in order to ward off disease and parasites. Beautiful. Just to keep you posted, I know a lot of you are worried about the Nkuhuma Pride and their whereabouts and how they're doing with their lives. They seem to be around. They went into Kruger the other day from Nkoro, which is southeast of us. Then there were reports of their tracks coming in and out of Buffelshoek on the far eastern side of Buffelshoek. So they're around there. They seem to be okay. I don't know why they won't come back here. Certainly we haven't seen the Birmingham boys here for eons. They've been around in the south. And just to reiterate to you, if you ever do come to visit Djuma or Arathusa, of course your traversing area will be a lot larger than the Wild Earth traversing area. And so with Taxon or Aubrey or one of the other guides, you'll definitely see amazing lions. But the lions will come back here eventually, and how it is in Buffelshoek now, so shall it be here in Djuma. I'm just going to nip forward a little bit. Siberia, you would like to know about zebras and how long they live. You say, it seems to you that they live lives that are as fulfilled as a giraffe and elephant. I'd love to know what you meant by fulfilled. I think it's quite a nice way to put it. Siberia, I think you'll find a zebra, much like similar-sized animals in the bush here, is potentially able to live to 20 years around in captivity. I think out here they'd be lucky to get beyond 15 or 16, but maybe a little bit older than that, depending on the stress levels. It is quite nice there, Brian. Can you see the hairs on the top of that little one just shining in the rising sun? They have little hairs when they're little like that. Now, I would say these are siblings. I don't think that they are in any way related as mother and son. I think this is a young bull in front of us, but it is, like I say, difficult to say. Now Scorpion 73, good morning to you. You say there's some ticks behind her ears. I didn't see them. Brian, did you see them? Scorpion, ticks don't seem to affect elephants as much as they do other animals. They definitely do get them. Because I think their skins are so thick, I think it's difficult for a tick to get in there and bite a blood vessel. So I'm not sure, Scorpion. But let me try and have a look. Yeah, as Jerry says, it could have been dried caking mud, but let me just have a quick look. She's being very investigative. He is being very investigative. Then there's a big cow in front of us, which we're not going to show you at the moment, but she will probably be the matriarch of this herd. Ooh, there's one with a floppy ear. You see that, Brian? There's one with a very, very floppy ear. Now that's a condition, not the same as floppy trunk syndrome, but floppy ear. I mean that the cartilage in that ear is broken and no longer functional. And I don't believe that it will ever function again quite properly. Isn't that interesting? May have been born like that, maybe an injury, won't affect her life too much. Paul, you say that they say that elephants have the best sense of smell of any mammal. Paul, I'm not convinced of that. I think you'll find that things like hyena probably have a sense of smell maybe a bit stronger than elephants. I'm not sure. And then Scorpion, I did look behind her ear, and I'm not seeing a great deal of ticks. I'm seeing lots of caked mud, though. There's the matriarch going across the road now. Big cow. Hello, Nick Cringe. This might be the first time we've heard from you, and if it is, thank you for getting hold of us. It's really good to hear from you. Look at this beautiful elephant. Hello. All right, Nikunj. Nikunj, I think that's how we pronounce your name. You're still a new viewer. Lovely to hear from you. And you want to know about elephants and why it is that you've been watching for a few days and you said sunset elephants toss mud all over themselves. Nick, what you'll find is during the heat of the day, often elephants will be in the deep shade, feeding and snoozing and sleeping, and then as it cools down, they will come out and go towards water holes where they might swim, they might drink, and they might also throw mud on themselves just to cool down. So just to cool down a bit, and they cover themselves in mud to get rid of the parasites and that sort of thing. So, Nick, the reason they do it at sunset is because most of the heat of the day is spent sitting in the shade. And then they'll come out around in the evening to do that kind of mud throwing and drinking and having a swim, perhaps. I think also, Nick, I mean, they will do it during the middle of the day, but remember, we don't drive around in the middle of the day, and so we don't often see it. I think if you watch the Juma Dam cam often enough, you would absolutely see them doing that mud tossing sometimes during the middle of the day. Right, let's go a little bit forward and see if we can't get another view of them. I'm not going to chase them into the thick bush. They've been very kind to let us view them from where they are. This car trying to sneak forward and roll and jigger as possible. There we go. That's the best view we're going to get at the moment. A few more in front of us. One of them about to cross the road. And there's a substantial amount of gas being produced by the elephants from hindgut fermentation vat that sits in the back of the elephant's stomach. And every so often you will hear them going, well, I'm not going to make the sound effects, you can imagine, but they can be fairly flatulent. And I've just heard one of these two elephants releasing some of the pressure. I cannot tell you what a distinct pleasure it is to have a cool breeze at our backs and a thick bank of clouds covering the sun. Sneak forward again. Oh, here's one of these unanswerable questions that will hopefully be answered by one of our clever viewers. Brian, a wonderful question about how much an elephant can lift with its trunk. This is a huge thing to our right here, Brian. That is a big cow. Brian, I don't know how much an elephant can lift with its trunk. I'm just going to be very quiet now as this car walks behind us. She is enormous. Ooh. That's wonderful. I wish you could see the smile on this Brian's face right now. I'm sure you noticed how my voice changed, and completely involuntarily as I was yakking away, and suddenly this behemoth appeared, and it's a respectful time. Wonderful. At no stage did she look at us with any kind of irritation. She was watching us, just making sure that we weren't a threat, and then she walked off. So, Brian, I don't know how much a full-grown elephant could lift with its trunk. I've seen them pick up fairly heavy logs of sort of maybe 20 or 30 kilograms. That doesn't seem like very much, though. Now, Brian, I don't know. If anyone has any answers for that, please send them through. #SafariLive, questions@wildebeests.tv. But I'm not sure. There is a source in the final control. I'm not sure what the source is. It says 300 kilograms with the trunk. That seems like an absolutely massive amount. Now, I've certainly never seen an elephant bull try and lift that kind of weight. But yes, they are. I mean, you do see them moving trees. You see them picking up, or sort of pulling trees, certainly. So, yeah, could well be 300 kilograms. Now, in pounds, that is about 700 pounds. huge amount. Oh, there we go, Anna, brilliant point. Of course, the Indian elephants or the Asian elephant are often put to work in the forests of India, and they certainly do pick up logs, teak logs, move them about the place. So yeah, 300 kilograms, probably quite good. And I suspect, like most mammals, if they're continuously picking up logs, I suspect their trunks probably get stronger and they get conditioned to it, and then they can probably pick up a bit more. But yeah, I haven't ever thought of that. That's 300 kilos is a huge mass to pick up with your nose. I certainly couldn't pick that up with my nose. All right, wonderful elephant herd. Let's press on so that we can... Right now about to pop out on the little sort of cut line. Georgie, you've also found that 300 kilograms seems to be around about the limit for an elephant bull to pick up with his trunk, so thank you for that. Lots of hyena tracks, and as I often say, that's why this job is such a fantastic guiding job, because we learn so much all the time and often from our viewers. So thank you for your efforts on that score, for educating me as we drive along. Macy, you want to know, and it's a very valid question, about how these elephants differ from their Indian counterparts in Asia. They differ quite substantially. First of all, from a biological point of view, they are unrelated. Well, they're not unrelated, they're in the same family, but they are not the same genus, which means that they couldn't possibly interbreed with each other. So that's quite interesting. And then what you find is that, obvious differences would be that in Indian elephants, the cows don't have tusks, and they are smaller. They have got much smaller ears because they don't need the cooling effect of the ears, because they live in shade most of the time, so they don't spend as much time exposed to the sun as our elephants do. And what else would the differences be, Brian? Those are the main differences. They also don't have two fingers on the end of the trunk. Our elephants have got two fingers, one at the front and one at the back of the trunk, and those ones just have one, I think, that folds over the top. It's prehensile, like ours are. And those are the major differences. They also tend to be slightly less irritated by human presence, the Asian elephant, and so they have been domesticated more successfully than the African version. You can domesticate an African elephant, but it's certainly not as easy a process. And also, apparently, African elephants would be fairly hopeless for the kind of work that Indian elephants do, because they need to eat so much. I think their digestive systems are possibly less efficient than an Indian elephant's, simply because they live in an environment where the food is not as rich in nutrients. And so that means that they have to eat for longer periods of the day. Marianne, you say if there is some form of reincarnation, you'd like to come back as an elephant cow. You can sit with your family all day and eat, basically, to your heart's content all day long. And you live a long life. Yes, I think that's not a bad option at all. And people often say, what animal would you like to be? And if I had to pick a mammal, I think I would probably take an elephant bull. Chris Rogue, you reckon that the mood of an elephant could also affect its ability to lift and how much it could lift? Yeah, I'm sure it would. I mean, certainly an adrenaline surge in a human being results in quite astonishing feats of strength that people would never be able to repeat were they not sort of coursing with adrenaline. So I'm sure the same would apply to elephants. I'm sure they'd be more willing to pick up heavier things if they were very irritated. Brian's actually putting a jacket on, everyone. I'm going to revel in the slight goosebumps I'm getting on my arms. Hello, Susan in Colorado. And while we drive down this cut line here, Brian, you just keep an eye out for animals, will you? You want to know how elephants make the noises that they do. Well, they make a few different kinds of noises, of course, and the most obvious one is the screaming. So they can scream from the voice box. They've got a large voice box, so you'll often hear, walking through the bush, you'll hear that, and that's them shouting at each other. It's often the young ones getting irritated, and that comes from the larynx. And then they will trumpet, of course. They can trumpet, and that's just blowing air through the nose at a great volume. And that will sound like a sort of very loud, obstreperous trumpet. And then, of course, there are the more subtle rumbling sounds that they make. And for a long time, people thought that those were made through the stomach. They are not. They are made through the vocal cords, through the voice box. And because the voice box is so much larger than ours, of course, they can make much deeper sounds, much more deep infrasonic sounds. And so that all comes from the larynx, or the vocal box, and that's how they make all their sounds. They make them at different times and different reasons. I don't think we're scratching the surface of understanding what those low rumblings, infrasonic rumbles, sometimes so low that we can't even hear them. And I'm sure they resonate through chambers in the body, you know, that make them sort of amplify the sound and send the sound out. But we don't understand, I don't think, half of what they're saying to each other with those low infrasonic rumbles. So that's the most subtle stuff. And to us, there are some buffalo. Hello, beefies. To us, those sounds sound a bit like sort of... I've no doubt that to the elephants themselves, that sounds completely different, and that sound that we can hear, that we can kind of imitate, is only the very, very top end or the highest frequency of those infrasonic rumbles that they make. And they use those communications for different times and different moods. I think there's a lot of just sort of chatting between the two. So often you can see elephants, when the matriarch makes that call, they stop what they're doing, they listen, they look, and then they move off in one direction. Maybe she gives the order to go to have a drink or to a new patch of grazing or whatever the case may be. And then they'll scream. Sometimes they'll shout from the voice box. The youngsters, like I said, when they're frustrated, they might trumpet when they're irritated, and they will often scream also if they're actually attacking, if they are charging. Anna-Marie, nice question. Can animals get heat stroke, basically? Can they overheat? Yes, they can, sure, even though they have evolved in these areas. It's an interesting discussion. Certainly there are a lot of desert-adapted animals that are more capable of maintaining heat balance than, say, some of the animals out here. So you won't find buffalo in true desert. You will find gemsbok, which you don't find here, or oryx in true desert. You won't find springbok here, but you do find them in true desert. And likewise, impala. You don't find them in the desert, but you find them here. So some animals are better adapted to losing heat than others. And what's interesting is that one of the most efficient animals, or, you know, one of the animals that loses heat most efficiently is the human being. And of course, Europeans in Africa, or Europeans in climates where there is a great deal of sun, like here. I mean, our kind of white skin is definitely not adapted sufficiently to surviving without support from either clothing or sunscreens and that sort of thing, and I think that makes us a lot hotter. But black skin out here is fantastic for losing heat and for rejecting the sun's rays. So So we're very good normally at getting rid of heat. And my little episode yesterday, which is very distinct from heat exhaustion or heat stress, is very different from heat stroke. Heat stroke is when you go into organ failure and you die, basically, unless you get very medical attention very soon. Heat exhaustion or heat stress is just brought about by the core body temperature going up for some reason. And normally animals are able to avoid it, and as humans we're also normally able to avoid it. Sometimes it's just a little trigger that sets it off. Nice question. Thank you, Anna Marie.
It's all happening at Gowrie Dam. This could be interesting. I wonder if they're going to try and come to the pan. Interesting to see how the situation plays out. And as they make their approach, I want to just show you something so that you're not too concerned whilst watching the Djuma Dam camera. There is the pan, and it does have water in it by the looks of things. So the animals are able to drink right next to, or very close to, the pan. Let's have a look and see how this situation plays out with the elephants. I think that they're the reason that Peter keeps coming out and wandering around, because he gets chased out by elephants and other animals making their way in. Stopping to sniff, led by most likely the matriarch there in the front. As we watch this elephant herd approach, Mike, watching in Florida. Oh, there's a big bull walking behind this herd. You can see him at the back there. He's not that big. He's fairly large. You can see that the really pronounced size difference between the females in the front and the male at the back. Mike, you were wondering whether or not anyone has seen Wrinkly Bottom or his herd recently. No, not to the best of my knowledge. I haven't personally. But that being said, I'm not entirely certain in my own mind that I have ever encountered Wrinkly Bottom's herd. I think I have, once. But I haven't spent enough time with them that I would recognize them straight off the bat. And this is really nice to watch this elephant herd approach the water. The matriarch in front, walking very carefully with her trunk in the air, making sure that she's alert to any kind of dangers that might be facing her family. A big male at the back. Really interesting to see their approach. We don't often get to see them from that distance, so well done, Tebs, for spotting them. Well, I hope I would have spotted them by now. Here comes one, a latecomer. Wait for me. The herd is accompanied by two big males, by the looks of things. Apparently you had this herd with James earlier. Sorry guys, somebody's just trying to contact me on the Game Drive channel. So that Ellie with the floppy ear is the same one that we saw with James. Craig, I've stopped to look at Shlavely and Lowville at Gowrie Dam.
All right.
The excitement. Water, 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 water. So excited. So the fact that they're accompanied by those two big males, you can see how the males are actually harassing them a little bit. Head popped up over the side there. Hello, girl. Hello, girl. Just letting you know that we're here. Hello, big girl. Presenting myself. Hey, look at those ears. They're so floppy on both sides. Oh. My goodness. I can't decide what this elephant looks like, but it's quite ridiculous. First time I've ever seen this, Ellie. 2 floppy ears, damaged cartilage around the top. Hello guys. It's a bit windy, which is also unsettling them. It's actually very windy. And they're trying to approach the water. They are going to chase that buffalo, or they're going to move that buffalo away. Little one. Got a fright. Buffalo scared it. Hello, girl. And we're going to sit nice and still as they come past us. They wanted to come and have a drink at the dam, but they should be able to smell the pan, or at the very least work out that there's water there. Hello, girls. Hi. Are those big boys harassing you? You can see the stress. Oh, I love that floppy-eared elephant. They've both. There's actually 2 in this herd with floppy ears. And that's genetic. That's got to be genetic. If there's 2 of them. It might be the same herd that you saw with James. You might not have seen all of the members of the herd. But I think that's genetic. The fact that there are 2 of them with faulty cartilage in their ears suggests to me that it's a genetic cause behind that. Just like sometimes you get tuskless elephants as well. They do come with their own variety of birth defects. Might be that they weren't actually coming for water, although they did stop to investigate the dam. They might have had a drink at the Gallagher waterhole before. Here comes the big male at the back. Ooh, Jose. You wanted to know, I've spoken a lot about the intelligence of, hello beautiful boy. He's an old elephant, look how thin he is. Sorry, I've got distracted, Jose. Oh, it's an old female, that's why her forehead is so pronounced. She's got very long tusks. That is a very old girl walking behind the herd. You'll probably find, in fact, that she is the previous herd's matriarch. Oh, sorry, let me try that again. The herd's previous matriarch that is slowly starting to relinquish control, probably to one of her daughters. And that's why the forehead bones are so pronounced, her hip bones are so pronounced. She's actually an old girl, an old female. Awesome to see, though. And she's big. She's obviously spent years growing. We'll just sit here for the moment. And before I carry on, Jose, you wanted to know whether or not hyenas or elephants are more intelligent. And the answer to that is elephants are more intelligent. Spotted hyenas are very, very clever. Elephants take it to a new level. They've actually physically got pathways, nerve pathways in their brain that are particularly devoted towards emotional development and psychological development, as well as socio and proprioception. So their spatial awareness, as well as the intricacies of their relations, it puts them a little bit more intelligent than spotted hyenas. It's a different kind of intelligence. Look at these guys. Sorry. It's the Wildebeests Sports Day. Oh. Here they come again. Circuit number 2. Skipping. Bouncing. There's some adult joining in. Bouncing. This is hilarious. Yep, definitely Wildebeest Sports Day.
Hey, so what's umbrella theory?
Wish I could bounce like that. I wish I had energy like that, actually. Eee! And this is purely for fun. They are having fun. I think the sub-adults also chasing them and racing with them. Even playing with them, I think you could. Trotting. Bouncy, bouncy, bouncy trots. Oh, it's a lot of fun to see. Oh, settling down. Tired now, race is over. I'm going to send you across to James so that I can restart Rusty, but I will be back with you very shortly. Okay, well, we're going to stay in this position for now. Let's have a look.
Hello, everybody. Sorry, my radio communications with the final control went on the blips, so I'm now putting a handheld onto myself, and you will have the great and esteemed pleasure, of course, of watching me attach myself to radio. You can see the great trials and tribulations that we have to go through. It really is really difficult, as you can see. Oh. So windy out here, so it's so hard. Isn't it, Brian? Yes, dreadful. Right, here is the handheld radio.
Power on, two.
The power is on two. I think it's supposed to be on two. Yes, it is. Okay. Okay. Oh dear. Not quite ready. I need a little bit that goes in the ear. Okay, on we go. Sorry about that. Now I can hear the dulcet tones of Geraldine at will, I hope. Ah, there we go. Hello, Jerry. That's much better. Okay, so what we've done is we drove to Buffelshoek Dam. We found nothing there but the dust bowl that it has become. And there is a little bit of greenery growing out of the clay there. And I think that will become fairly valuable forage fairly soon for some animals. But they're a bit nervous to go on there, of course, because it is still a little bit soft underfoot. And if you're a thin-legged animal like an impala, without large feet like a human, you will probably sink in there very quickly and become mired and unable to move. So that's where we went there. Then we checked the eastern boundary for a while, found a herd of zebras, but no tracks of any cats. Unfortunately, no lions at this stage, but we are looking also for some leopard tracks. Not sure of the position or whereabouts of Karula. And I believe Jamie did have some male tracks around the western sector, so we'll head sort of towards that area, and we might also get an update from Arathusa and see what's going on there. So that is the general plan of the morning. Otherwise, it's just very pleasant driving around in the full shade. Isn't it, Brian? Marvellous. I believe you had our elephants at the waterhole having a drink.
Herd, and I'm absolutely fascinated by old elephants. I'm not going to follow too closely because I don't want to stress them out, particularly with this old lady. But she is, I would say, easily coming up to 50, if not older. Just judging by her sheer size. She's got huge tusks, she's huge and stately, but she's starting to sort of waste. Her spine is prominent, her hip bones are prominent. I would love to know what stories that elephant could tell in her 50 plus years wandering through these lands. And as I said, she was probably the matriarch of this herd at one point. And she's reached the stage now where the younger ones have taken over. And she is
Jamie, are those in dwarves for
bringing up the rear. Sorry guys, I'm just going to answer Craig's question. And now mobile south down Twin Dams Road.
Okay, copy. Thank you. What's the
More than welcome to. I've just passed the Wildebeests junction now. Craig would just like to join us at the sighting. I think he might struggle actually. I think that these eddies are going to keep moving off. Let's see how we do though, because I really am fascinated by that old lady. Sure. Angela, it's a good question. Angela wants to know how many different elephant families or elephant herds there are in this reserve. With close on 3 million hectares worth of open area, and I would guess somewhere in the region of about 14,000 elephants. Angela, I honestly don't know. Let's average it out. Let's say there's an average of 15 elephants in a herd. Now let's pretend that it's 20 because I've just realized how difficult that maths was going to be. So what is that? 14,000 divided by 20. Anybody? No? Okay. 14,000 divided by 20 is 700. Have I got that right? No, that can't be right. Yes, 700. My word, my brain is fried. I should be able to do that, but yes, roughly, I think about 700. That is entirely a guess. That is not an accurate number. That is a rough estimation. Very difficult for me to be able to tell you exactly how many eddy herds there are. Lots and lots. This is a fairly small herd, and I think probably my average of 20 was a bit of a high estimate as an average number of elephants in a herd. This herd is so easily identifiable by the floppy-eared individuals. There's two of them. Actually, both little males, I think. They are going to move off, I think. They seem to be on a mission. Zoe, you were wondering whether it could be complications during birth that could cause those floppy ears. Absolutely. No reason why not. There we go. We can have a look at that one floppy-eared eddy.
River. What is that?
Yes, possibly. Complications during birth, something within them. I think they've got some kind of genetic defect, just because there's two of them in this herd. Generally, I don't think floppy ears are caused by injury. It's a possibility, but I think it's more likely to be genetic complications. And yes, entirely possible something happens during the birth of the elephants. Fascinating to see, though. I've never seen a double droop like that one individual with such perfect symmetry. Just bear with me one moment. I need to go onto the Game Drive channel. I'll be with you now.
One of you can carry on.
In a moment when Andrew's finished speaking. I think that's the last view of our elephant herd that we're going to have. That was awesome. Some interesting characters. Angela, I'm going to see if I can do a little bit of research and find out the exact number of elephant herds in the Kruger, or a rough number of elephant herds in the Kruger. I'm not sure anybody knows for certain. I'd also be very curious to know how many big bulls, big males there are. Crystal, you wanted to know what happens when an elephant dies of natural causes. First of all, a lot of elephants die around rivers. And the reason behind that is because their teeth wear down. We've chatted a lot about the natural aging process of elephants. And essentially their death is caused by a combination of old age and malnutrition, because they move through 6 sets of molars within their life. By the time they get to their 6th set, at about roughly 50 years old, they can no longer chew their food properly, and they've got no more teeth to come in and replace that. So they can't chew food as well, and generally the softest food is found around rivers. So if the park officials find an elephant carcass that has died of natural causes, what they will do is they will take the tusks away and put them in a safe. And that's because of the tremendous poaching problem, and obviously you don't want to encourage people to come in, and even if they're not necessarily poaching the elephants, to come in and take those tusks. It just fuels the market, and the trade is of course illegal. So they will take the tusks, but beyond that they will leave the elephant to the natural decomposition process that happens to all animals that die out here. So yes, it will be eaten. It sometimes takes a while for animals to be able to get into the skin or to discover the carcass. So what officials might do is they might open up the carcass to make things easier and to make the process faster. But beyond that, that is essentially how it will go. And they'll be fed on by hyenas, lions, anything like that will scavenge on an elephant carcass. Interestingly, that is one of the explanations behind the story of elephant graveyards. So I'm sure many of you have heard of the idea that elephants go to the same mountain rivers and they die there because of the search for soft food. What happens is when the rivers flood every couple of years, they collect all of those bones and then they get deposited in the same place. So when a river bends or something similar around a corner, those bones get deposited there as a group. It's almost like a sieve. And you'll see it. You'll see a lot more bones within drainage lines as well that have been washed into that area. And that's one of the explanations behind the rumor that elephants go into graveyards. We've lost our Ellies for now. I'm going to go back towards that pan so that I can show you there is water. In the meantime, James has got a kudu to show you.
And lonely in the thick Scotch mist that has descended. No, that's nonsense. It's just a bit of shade. But certainly quite lonely. It's Kudu cow. I'm not sure why she's alone here. I can't see any others. But she's being very confiding, and it's very lovely to spend a bit of time with one of the most beautiful antelopes here. I think the second most beautiful antelope, the most beautiful being their distant cousins, the Nyala. Oh, there's another one. Brian, I see it.
She's living on a bone as well.
Oh, is she?
Mm.
Oh, that's right. Now, that is not uncommon, everybody, for kudu to nibble on bones every so often, or all the antelope for that matter. They do need to get hold of nutrients, especially when things are dry like this. Phosphorus and I think and calcium are the ones that are the most difficult to get hold of through browse. And so there will just be some sucking on old bones every so often. She looks to me like she's lactating. But where her calf would be or why it wouldn't be in attendance, I don't know. Maybe she's just about to give birth. Yeah, she looks quite fat, actually. She might be pregnant. Very beautiful. And I'll just give you a sense of the atmosphere around here. Gentle breeze blowing in from the southeast. Definitely much shaded from how it was yesterday. You can see there's no sun shining. Few birds calling. The ubiquitous woodland kingfisher, which calls in rain, shine, sleet, snow, blizzard, tornado, hurricane, and typhoon. Totally undeterred by any form of extreme weather. Otherwise, things are pretty quiet. There's a long-billed cronbeck, which you might be able to hear just going. And that's about it. Right, we're going to keep driving. Let's see, we're on the southern boundary at the moment. We did get an update from Arethusa. There seems to be not a lot going on there at the moment, so I'm not going to go rushing off terra incognito to the west. We're just going to gently move around here into the area where Jamie had the tracks of the male leopard a little bit earlier, and maybe that will bear us some fruit. News on the wire, well, not so much the wire as the Bush Telegraph, of course, is that Shadow is in Hoffman's, which is this reserve just to the south of us here. A leopard called Tundi has murdered something to the south in Cheetah Plains. And that's basically the leopard update at the moment. Don't know where Mvula is, don't know where Karula is, and don't know where Tingana is. So those are all hopeful for the afternoon, and for now, of course, we may be lucky still. We've still got quite a long time of this morning drive to go, so we might be lucky. Certainly, as you've seen, there's plenty for them to eat on Juma.